Makes no odds to me. James, and we have reached chapter 5. Chapter 5. And we're going to be reading tonight from verse 1 to 6. We'll just wait until technology catches up with the book. So
nice. No, it's not the same, isn't it? Wow, it's fancy, isn't it?
Did it find it?
You can see the progress of the advancement card.
yeah, that's the end of the book, I'm afraid. It'll go the same way as tape cassettes and all that.
Yeah.
It'll be taken over by Kindles.
It's that from the last chapter of James.
Yeah, we
So
are
about
nearly.
6 months.
Indeed, we are near to finishing James. Okay. So what we'll do then is there's only six verses to read from. So could I impose upon you, Paul, to read the first 3 verses?
Yeah, sure.
And Matthew, would you be able to read verses 4, 5 and 6?
Yeah.
Thank you. In your own time.
Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days.
Indeed, the wages of the labourers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, cry out, and the cries of the reapers have reached the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath. You have lived on the earth in pleasure and luxury. You have fattened your hearts as in a day of slaughter. You have condemned, you have murdered the just. He does not resist you.
So I think if you could accuse James of anything, it wouldn't be that he holds back his real opinion, and some very strong language in these verses. And we are about to step into the highly controversial world of Christians and money. Yeah. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. And I was thinking about this the other day, about people who we've talked about, like George Muller, who, if you've heard of him, is quite a famous Christian, who trusted God for his income. You know, he I think you know a bit more about him, Paul, than I do, but he had a box at the back of his church or orphanage, I don't know which one it was, they were kind of one and the same, I think, really, weren't they? And people put money in it, but he never actually went to people saying, look, can you give me money, can you help support what I'm doing here, I haven't got any income. He trusted God. The same with Hudson Taylor. And when you come to people like Wesley, and because I know about him, he did have an income, of course. He had an income from his writing and stuff. And he made a small fortune during his lifetime, and he spent a lot. But he spent it on publishing Bibles, publishing hymn books, supporting missionaries, supporting orphanages. You know, that's what he did with his money, to the extent that when he came to his deathbed, he had £4 left and £1 for each of the people who would carry his coffin. That's how he worked out all his finances. And so now compare that with a lawsuit that is going on in the United States at the moment against Paul and Jan Crouch. You heard of this? Who they're heads of TBN broadcasting, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Christian, in inverted commas, network in America. And it's over the alleged misuse of $50 million in supposedly non-profit charitable income, which allegedly they have spent, brace yourself for this, on 13 mansions, at least one personal private jet, and a $100,000 mobile home for Mrs. Crouch's dogs. So, I mean, you're talking the most disgustingly, luxurious spending of unnecessary spending of money that's supposed to be, for a charity. And, you compare the two and think, well, how can you justify that? And yet they do justify it as well. And someone was saying, well, how can you have such a disposable income at your fingertips? And they were saying, oh, well, it's necessary sometimes for Mr. and Mrs. Crouch to make a purchase of another broadcasting corporation, and that costs a lot of money, and they believe in the biblical principle that you shouldn't borrow or lend. But obviously they don't believe in the biblical principle that you should not lay up treasure upon earth. So this is where, that's an extreme example, isn't it? But it comes down to this, whose money is it if you're a Christian? Is it your money to do with as you wish, as you please, as you see fit? Or are you a steward of God's money? Discuss.
I think if you're a slave of Christ, which is what you are as a Christian, he says that we're servants, aren't we?
Yeah.
But the word apparently means slave, so I've been told.
Right.
Then what rights does a slave have over anything that their master gives them, other than to use it as their master would have them dispose of it for him? It's his. You're just doing with it what he would have you do for him. That's it really, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting that this subject's come up, because we were watching Jesus of Nazareth, and
Classic film.
it was the rich young ruler came to Jesus and said, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And he turned to him, and in the film he didn't quote the Ten Commandments to him, where the rich young ruler says, all these I have kept, but there was the crucial one, thou shalt not covet.
Yeah.
And he said in the film, go away and sell all your possessions and give all your money to the poor, and come and follow me. And the rich young ruler went away sad, because he was obviously very wealthy, And we were talking, weren't we, about the camel and the eye of the needle, and I think it's, I can't remember if it quoted properly, but it says about then who should be saved, because it's impossible for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle, but nothing's impossible with God. Yeah. So we were talking about that, and I think Cliff Richard was asked once, you're sort of like saying you're a Christian, but look at all your money, and he quotes this camel in the eye of the needle. But how much is being rich? Because we're very comfortably off and rich compared to, a lot of countries. As far as I know, nobody's starving to death in this country. So are we rich?
In terms of comfort and relative to them, we're probably more well off in that way than the rich young ruler, with all the mod cons and things. But